What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about the massive potential that Ghost of Tsushima has. Now, I know I've been, kind of back and forth. I remain very optimistic about this game. I'm a very optimistic person in general, but I know I've talked a lot about my concerns, a lot about my worries of this game over the last couple videos. I know I've kind of strayed from the positivity that I normally, or at least first had on this game, so I want to bring it back for this video, kind of talk about the excitement, what Sucker Punch can do with a world like this, future building in terms of like future games, all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about that in this video. Really quickly, before I jump into this, I have a second channel. It's pretty much the same thing as this channel. I talk about gaming. So as we get closer to Ghost of Tsushima, as we get closer to all these PlayStation games, and not just PlayStation, any games in general, I cover them there as well. So if you guys feel inclined, I'll leave the link in the description below if you guys want to check out my second channel. Subscribe there. It would mean a lot to me. And as always, make sure you guys are subscribed and have the bell icon turned on here as well, because Ghost of Tsushima stuff is only going to pick up as we get closer to the game. We're going to be talking about it, leading into it, when the game comes out, all that kind of stuff. I'm very excited. We could also have a talk in the future of if The Last of Us, the leaks and all that stuff, if that has actually helped Ghost of Tsushima. I feel like it's maybe driven people that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been getting this game to get this game. I do want to have that discussion. I think that's a pretty valid discussion to have. But let's talk about this. So, again, there are concerns. There are things that I would like to see. And by the way, we know that they are going to show stuff over the next couple weeks, over the next couple months. I mean, they only have a couple months left, but Sucker Punch has said, we will be showing more soon. We will be showing more gameplay, more in-world mechanics, that's exactly what I want, right? And I think we've talked about that before. That's exactly what I think they need to show us. They really need to show us how the world works. But the potential, it truly is there. This game is, I really honestly can't even explain it in a sense, because the game does have just such a potential to it where, I oftentimes have compared it to Days Gone, and I think, again, that's a valid comparison to a sense. I understand that obviously Days Gone is very, very different from it, and I don't think when all's said and done, it'll be looked at the same as Days Gone. I feel like Days Gone, yes, there are the people that are very heavily in that group that absolutely adore that game, and I like the game. I think Days Gone is a solid game. I don't think it's an amazing game, but some people think that. And you know what? I mean, you can have, honestly, you can have any opinion you want of Days Gone, of Ghost of Tsushima, of any game. It's completely up to you how you think of it. But I think the general opinion of Days Gone was like, all right, and this is how at least I look at it, is it's a good first game in that world. They need to take the criticism that they received and they need to do better, and they just add to it for the second game. I think they have a real solid foundation in the first Days Gone. Was it perfect? No. Have there been other games that have done it better in the first attempt? Yeah, I think like Horizon. Horizon, I think, is like a better Days Gone, where as a first game, it not only really set up the potential for future games, but also as just the first game in the series, did amazing, I would say. Same thing with like Spider-Man, if you count the newest God of War, right, which I actually probably wouldn't, because it's part, it's Kratos and all that kind of stuff. You can even look back at like Uncharted and stuff like that. Some have done it better than others, and I think Horizon did it really good. Days Gone did it okay, but not as good. And that's where the potential here comes in, because, for all this talk, and I do want them to go back to Infamous. I truly do. I mean, I made a video a long time ago, a while back like in the fall, where I said, do they need to go back to Infamous, or should they? Should Infamous be the next game after Ghost of Tsushima? And while I do want an Infamous 3, and I want them to one day return to that franchise, because I feel like they had something there with that kind of, I was going to say superhero, but I mean, you could be bad, right? And it was pretty, it was kind of like one-dimensional. Like, all the good choices were very good, all the bad choices were very bad. There wasn't really like a middling area, but that's, I guess back then, back 10 plus years ago, that's generally how these kind of things were. Even look at the older Mass Effects. I think they obviously they got better, like Mass Effect 2 and 3, but even the first game. So I want them to return to Infamous, but in all reality, you don't spend this much time working on a game like this to just drop it after this game. I mean, I guess you could have said the same thing for Second Son, right? They made Infamous Second Son. They created that whole world, which, again, it was Infamous, but it was its own unique thing, right, for Delson. And then they dropped it. They dropped it for this game. But the potential here truly is big. The story, I feel like is going to definitely be something that's going to test people, I feel, because it's going to be very different than the stories we're used to getting. I guess we can specifically say from Sony games. The only one that I think is relatively close, and by the way, it's not close. I guess it's in like the same stratosphere, but it's not like very close, would maybe be Death Stranding. Now, like, it's not that. It's, Hideo Kojima doesn't have the reins here. It's not going to be a story that like 2% of the people that are playing the game are going to understand by the end of it. But in terms of like Uncharted, even like The Last of Us, right? Horizon, Spider-Man, I mean, list off the games. Ghost of Tsushima, I just feel is going to have a story. Again, it kind of has some realistic, I mean, it is based off of history, but they're doing their own thing with it. It's going to be, I feel like, a more grounded tale, but a little bit different than other games we're used to. So again, it could be like a put-offish kind of thing for some people. I totally get that. I feel like we are going to have people that say when the game comes out that like, hey, I really only like the gameplay, or I really love the story. Like, it was deep, all this historical context. Like, I really like that. I think we're going to have different groups, but what's good about that is you can have that, right? You can have the people that are invested deeply in the story. I think the gameplay is going to be very good. Now, we haven't seen, in my opinion, enough of the gameplay to make like a decision on it yet, in my opinion. But I would say, although Delson and I guess Infamous Second Son didn't have enough powers, right? I think that's one of the main criticisms we can all agree on that game, lacked. Infamous games in general, I think the gameplay is pretty solid. I guess you could disagree. It's my opinion, I guess. I mean, Infamous 1, Infamous 2, even Second Son, like, it feels very fluid. We'll have to see. I mean, obviously, the samurai kind of thing with the sword and all that stuff, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. But Sucker Punch, and even if you even go back to, like, Sly Cooper, the gameplay aspect, how the game controls, normally is pretty darn good. It really is. It normally is pretty darn good. I think, again, what Ghost of Tsushima just needs to nail is, I guess, before the game comes out, they just need to show us a little bit more. But when the game does come out, obviously we're looking for what? We're looking for like side quests. We're looking for a world that houses the main story, but you can also do different things in it, right? There's like world building. The world feels alive when you're not in it. Classic open world things, which you could say, well, and I would say some studios have done it better than others. And the thing to recognize is Infamous, again, has kind of been up and down with it. I would say even the best Infamous games you can think of, which I would say is probably Infamous 2. The world was semi-alive. I wouldn't say it was the most, and again, you have to think of, well, it's been a long time, so you hope that they have adjusted to the curve of open world games since then, right? And they have been working on games since then in general. I guess you could even say Second Son. Their worlds, I guess, generally feel lived enough in, right? They're not like the best in the world, but I think one thing they have always kind of lacked is things to do. Sometimes they get and especially with Second Son, they get very, very repetitive. I guess mainly that's probably my main issue. And so things like that is what they're going to have to fix for this. But again, the key word here, the key word of the video is potential, right? The potential for Ghost of Tsushima is massive if they have the world feeling alive. If they have, because again, like, you're going to be basically taking over settlements that are being controlled by somebody else. So you can take them over. There's a lot of control, like a grasp for control in this game. So it'll be interesting. And again, like, these are the reasons why I want to see these things, because it will be interesting to see how they handle it, like what they do with that. And that is what I want to see early on. But again, as long as we don't see that, all we can do is hope that the world feels lived in, that the gameplay feels tight, that everything just works solidly, right? Again, I think when all's said and done, the more I think about it, I mean, yeah, I've been very hard on this game. I don't think that's a shock or a surprise to anybody, right? I think I've been hard on this game. I think most of you guys do recognize by now that, or if you don't, let me quickly say, I want the best for the game. The reason I've been tough on it is I really want the best for this game. I want this game to be Game of the Year contender. I want this game to be very, very special. I love Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch has made some of my favorite. Sly Cooper is like my childhood. So I love Sucker Punch. I mean, obviously, they're not all the same people that did that, but they have a good history. Infamous games, I loved Infamous 1 and 2, and Festival of Blood was fantastic. Even First Light, I actually really, really liked First Light. I just didn't like Second Son. They've fallen off the map. There's no doubt about it. I would have said, if you look back at Infamous 2, and you were to rank the Sony-owned studios, you would put Sucker Punch in the upper tier, right with Naughty Dog, right with Sony Santa Monica, right with them. You really would. I don't even think Guerrilla Games, the makers of Killzone, back then, I wouldn't have even said they would have been up there. But now, again, I mean, obviously time has gone by and things have shifted. You could argue that Naughty Dog has now fallen because of The Last of Us Part 2, right? Again, I mean, that remains to be seen, and we will see in just a few weeks at this point. But you know what I mean? I want Sucker Punch back up there. And truthfully, I believe that they have it in them. And that's why, while I have been hard on them, the more time has gone on, the more I do kind of believe my own thing where I've said, like, does Sony care about this game? I'm starting to believe more and more that they really don't have the most confidence in this game, but they should. I think this game is actually going to be a very surprisingly good game to those that aren't paying attention. You know what I mean? People that aren't really, they just buy, the big game that comes out, or they look at the review scores and stuff like that. They may not know all that much of Ghost of Tsushima, but when it releases, we could start seeing, like, everybody's giving it just, like, 9 and up, right? They could get, like, a 90 plus on Metacritic, and people are like, wow. And then you could say, well, Sony's not even pushing this, right? That's what we talked about last time. I think that's a very realistic thing that could happen. And then the final thing I'll say is, again, with The Last of Us, and that is a separate video, but I want to include it here, is if that game bombs, if that game doesn't sell well, if that game, people just kind of completely turn their backs on it, which some people are, others aren't. I'm actually not, but I understand why others would. If that happens, they could all come to Ghost of Tsushima, right? Because maybe everybody was saying, well, they come out a month apart, but I'm getting The Last of Us Part 2 because, well, duh, obviously. Like, who wouldn't, right? But maybe after all the leaks, after all the stuff that's happened, maybe they say, you know what? Ghost of Tsushima, we haven't seen much of it. It's kind of a mystery. I don't know if I'll like it, but I don't hate it. Like, at least I don't hate it right now, so maybe I'll give it a chance. And honestly, that could very much help Ghost of Tsushima out. I really think it could. So I think as time has gone on, the game has gotten a more positive, and people love it. I mean, obviously, I see you guys love these videos, it seems like, right? You guys are very receptive to these videos. A lot of you guys are very, very excited for this game. Great to see. That's great to see. I want Sucker Punch back. I want Naughty Dog to stay up there as, like, the top, right? But I would love to see Sucker Punch up there right with them. All of these companies, I've said it with The Last of Us, I'll say it with Ghost of Tsushima, I just want the best from these games. I don't want The Last of Us Part 2 to bomb. I don't want that game to be terrible. None of that stuff. I want it to be really good. I'm hoping that the leaks are taken out of context and that they maybe are over-exaggerated in a lot of senses, which they could be. They very well could be. I'm hoping for that because I want The Last of Us Part 2 to be good. Ghost of Tsushima, I want to see it because I think that when we do see things from Ghost of Tsushima, we'll be impressed. All the stuff we have seen has been impressive, but we haven't seen a lot. That's the problem, right? So that's the only reason why I want to see more stuff. There's some questions I have unanswered, and I think when they show it to us, I'm going to be like, you know what? Perfect. You answered my questions, and I'm even more excited now. So, again, the optimistic, feel of me. I like making this video. I feel more optimistic about this game just by talking about it. Hopefully, you guys feel that same way by listening. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? You guys excited for Ghost of Tsushima? Are you getting it day one? Did the stuff with The Last of Us impact your decision on Ghost of Tsushima? All that stuff, let me know. Again, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed, have that bell icon turned on. Second channel, link will be in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And thank you guys so much for watching. As we get closer to Ghost of Tsushima, there'll obviously be more videos. If we see something on it, before then, I'll make a video on it as well, okay? So more Ghost of Tsushima videos coming very, very soon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.